It was April 4th, 2026. During the escalating tensions between the United States and Iran, an American F-15E Strike Eagle was operating over Iranian territory when it was shot down by Iranian air defenses. What followed triggered a major combat search and rescue effort involving multiple aircraft and special operations forces. The F-15E Strike Eagle is a two-seat fighter bomber designed for long-range strike missions. One crew member serves as the pilot, while the second is the weapons systems officer who manages radar, targeting systems, and navigation. The aircraft is heavily equipped for hostile environments and carries electronic countermeasures designed to defend against radar-guided missiles. On this mission, the aircraft was flying over mountainous terrain in southern Iran. Iranian air defense systems detected the aircraft and tracked it using ground-based radar. Once the aircraft was identified as a hostile target, an Iranian surface-to-air missile battery launched a missile. Inside the cockpit, the crew would have immediately received missile warning alerts. Modern fighter aircraft have systems that detect radar tracking and incoming missile signatures. The standard response is to perform aggressive evasive maneuvers, while deploying countermeasures such as flares and electronic jamming. Despite these defensive actions, the missile detonated close enough to damage the aircraft. At that point, the crew faced a critical decision. When a fighter jet is severely damaged, the pilot must quickly determine whether the aircraft can remain airborne. If the damage is catastrophic, the only safe option is to eject. The crew initiated the ejection sequence. Both crew members were propelled from the aircraft using rocket-powered ejection seats. Seconds later, their parachutes deployed and they began descending toward the mountains below. The damaged aircraft continued falling and eventually crashed somewhere in the surrounding terrain. Landing in hostile territory immediately changes the nature of the situation. Downed aircrew are trained to follow survival procedures as soon as they reach the ground. These procedures include hiding parachutes, concealing survival equipment, and quickly moving away. At the same time, the enemy often begins searching immediately. Air defense units typically track where the crew may have landed and deploy search teams to capture them. This creates a race between rescue forces and enemy ground units. In this case, the two airmen landed in separate areas across difficult mountainous terrain. One of the crew members was located relatively quickly by U.S. rescue forces and extracted from the area. The second airman, however, remained missing. That meant a U.S. pilot was now alone inside Iranian territory. Using his survival training, the pilot moved away from his landing zone and hid among rocky terrain. Survival radios carried by downed pilots allow them to transmit brief signals to friendly aircraft passing overhead. These signals are usually short bursts designed to reduce the chance of enemy interception. One of those signals was eventually detected by U.S. forces monitoring the region. The transmission confirmed that the missing pilot was alive, but he was still deep inside hostile territory. Iranian search teams were already moving through the area looking for him. That meant the United States now had a limited window of time to launch a rescue operation before the pilot could be captured. And planning that rescue would require aircraft, intelligence support, and special operations forces. It is now April 6, 2026. After nearly 2 days of uncertainty, U.S. officials announced that the missing F-15 airman, callsign Dude 44 Bravo, had been successfully recovered from inside Iran. The rescue operation that led to that announcement involved a large and carefully coordinated military response. Combat search and rescue missions are among the most complex operations a military can conduct. Recovering a pilot from hostile territory requires accurate intelligence, air support, and special operations personnel capable of operating quickly on the ground. In this case, the missing airman had spent roughly 48 hours hiding in mountainous terrain while Iranian search teams were attempting to locate him. During the day, the pilot remained concealed among rocks and ridgelines to avoid detection. At night, he used a survival radio to transmit brief signals to aircraft flying overhead. These signals helped rescuers narrow down his position. Meanwhile, U.S. military planners were assembling a rescue force. Helicopters capable of operating at low altitude were prepared along with escort aircraft that would protect the rescue team from potential threats. Surveillance drones were also used to monitor the surrounding terrain and track enemy movement. Once the approximate location of the pilot had been identified, the rescue force launched the operation. Helicopters carrying Special Operations troops flew toward the area while fighter aircraft provided cover overhead. The goal was to move quickly, reach the pilot, and leave the area before Iranian forces could respond. As the helicopters approached the landing zone, they descended into a narrow section of mountainous terrain where the pilot had been hiding. Special Operations soldiers exited the aircraft and quickly moved toward the pilot's location. Once the pilot was located, he was brought aboard the helicopter within minutes. Speed is critical in rescue missions like this, because the longer aircraft remain on the ground, the greater the chance that enemy forces could intercept them. After loading the pilot, the helicopters immediately lifted off and departed the area. The rescue force then flew back toward friendly territory where the recovered airmen could receive medical evaluation and debriefing. With the pilot safely recovered, U.S. officials confirmed the successful completion of the mission. Operations like this highlight the importance of combat search and rescue capabilities. Modern militaries invest heavily in these systems because pilots operating over hostile territory always face the risk of being shot down. When that happens, the ability to quickly locate and recover the crew becomes critical. In this case, the mission demonstrated how aircraft, intelligence systems, and special operations forces can work together to recover personnel even from extremely dangerous environments. The pilot survived 2 days behind enemy lines. And thanks to the rescue operation, Dude 44 Bravo was able to return home safely. I'm Ernie, and mission accomplished.